What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Open Door. I'm glad you're here. Wherever you are right now, whether you're driving home after a long day, or sitting alone in your room like I am, or just trying to make sense of life, thank you for pressing play. Today, I want to talk about something real, something a lot of people feel, but almost nobody talks about, and that's isolation.
Bringing the weight you've been holding, a story ready for unfolding. Here at the open door, a quiet space you can explore. In the stillness after the rain, we'll find the beauty and the pain.
Not the kind where you're physically alone, but the kind where you're surrounded by people and somehow still feel invisible. The kind of loneliness is different. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And over time, the whispers become a voice. And that voice starts telling you things like, you're falling behind, you're not enough, you'll never catch up. And if you hear it long enough, you start believing it. I know that voice because for a long time, I believed it too. There was a point in my life where I felt completely lost. I felt small, like somehow I didn't fit anywhere. And I look around and I see people moving forward, building their lives, finding direction, creating success. And then I look at myself and all I could see was failure. Even when I wasn't failing, that self-doubt, that's what self-doubt does. It lies to you. It makes your progress feel invisible. It convinces you that because your life doesn't look like someone else's, you must be doing something wrong. And that's where it starts. The comparison, the overthinking, the quiet belief that everybody else got the map and somehow you got left behind. There's something nobody prepares you for. And that's the questions your mind starts asking when you feel stuck. Why am I not where they are? Why does everybody else seem to know what they're doing? Why does life look easier for everybody else? And those questions become dangerous if you leave them unanswered, because eventually they stop sounding like questions and they start sounding like facts. And once your mind accepts that lie, you begin shrinking yourself. You stop dreaming big. You stop trying. You stop introducing yourself to new opportunity because deep down you already convinced yourself you're not enough. And that's the hardest part. Most people won't even know what's happening. They'll see you smile, hear your laugh, think you're okay. And all the while, you're fighting a battle they can't see. The kind of loneliness changes a person, because it changed me. I started shutting people out. Friends I've known for years, people I cared about, people who probably would have been there for me if I just said something, but I didn't, because I didn't want anyone seeing what I thought was weakness, and I didn't want people to know how broken I felt inside. So instead, I disappeared. I stopped answering texts. I stopped checking in. I stopped showing up. And isolation becomes comfortable. And that's the scary part. When being alone feels safer than being known, you convince yourself nobody can hurt what they can't reach. But isolation doesn't protect you. It slowly breaks you down. And by the time you realize when it's done, you barely recognize yourself anymore. Isolation doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's pretending you're just busy. Sometimes it's saying I'm fine when your heart feels exhausted. Sometimes it's avoiding people because you don't want them asking how are you doing? Because honestly, you don't even know how to answer. How do you explain pain you can't fully understand yourself? How do you explain feeling empty when technically everything looks okay? And because of that, you feel guilty for hurting. You tell yourself other people have it worse. I should be grateful. Why do I feel like this? But pain doesn't need permission to exist, and healing doesn't begin when you deny what hurts. Healing begins the moment you finally say, this is hard. And that's okay. And there were days where the pressure felt uncomfortable, like I couldn't breathe, like my thoughts were closing in on me. Panic, fear, regret, the replaying of every mistake, the pressure to fix everything immediately. And if you ever felt like that, please hear me. You are not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're not broken because life feels heavy, and you're not falling, or you're not failing just because you're struggling. Sometimes we demand perfection for ourselves while forgetting we're human. We forget mistakes are part of becoming. We forget struggling is often where growth begins, and for a long time, I forgot that too. But eventually, something shifted, and I started realizing it was okay to struggle, that it was okay to make mistakes, that it was okay that life didn't look how I thought it would, because life was never supposed to be perfect. Growth is messy. Healing is slow. And then one day I realized something that changed everything. I was punishing myself for lessons I was supposed to learn from. I was carrying guilt I didn't need anymore, holding myself hostage for mistakes that were meant to teach me. And when I understood that, I started letting go. Little by little, not overnight, not perfectly, but enough to breathe again. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Looking back now, I'm grateful for those difficult seasons, not because they felt good, not because I want to relive them again, but because they taught me things like comfort, like what comfort never could. They taught me resilience, patience, perspective. They taught me who I really was when everything else was stripped away. And maybe that's where some of y'all guys are right now. Maybe life stripped away friendship, confidence, plans you thought would work out. And now you're standing there wondering what's left. And I'll tell you what's left. You. The real you. The strong version of you still being built. Maybe this season isn't punishment. Maybe it's preparation for who you're becoming. And here's what I know. Here's what I know now. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need to move at someone else's pace. You do not need your life to look like anyone else's, because comparison steals peace every single time. Your journey is yours. Your timing is yours. And the moment you stop racing other people, you'll finally begin becoming yourself. When we're all figuring this out, every single one of us, some people hide it better. And if life feels uncertain right now, that doesn't mean your story is over. It means your story is still being written. So if you're listening to this right now and you feel isolated, you feel behind, you feel like everyone else has life figured out except you, hear this. You are not alone, and you're not a failure, and you're not late. And this chapter does not define your whole story. So keep going, keep learning, keep growing. Give yourself permission to breathe, permission to make mistakes, permission to become. Because one day you're going to look back at the version of yourself and realize this wasn't the end. This was the beginning. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for walking through that open door. Until next time, keep moving forward. I'm your host, Sal, and I'll see you guys on the next one.